All right. So this is our unit on trig. So I understand your first response is to try to do trig here. However, what is the hiccup with trying to do trig on this problem? They don't provide any angles. So are we going to sit here and do trig and try to find the angles? Does it ask for the angles? No. Instead, what other concept can we apply to right triangles? Oh my gosh, we can do Pythagorean theorem. Good. Now, it tells us AC is 12 units long. And it tells us AE is 20. And it tells us AD is 4 square root 13. And we're trying to find DE plus BD. So I'm going to put variables on those lengths, X and Y, so I can remember those are the ones I'm trying to get to. Now, what can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do on this picture to maybe fill in some of the blanks, to find some values?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. It says B is the midpoint, meaning these lengths are the same. So 12 divided by 2 is? Now what? What else can I do? Ah, what would doing Pythagorean theorem on the whole triangle give us? Shh. Shh. Yeah, the entire top of the big triangle, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I want to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Our a is 12. Our b is that length we're trying to find, that top, CE, equals 20 squared. So what is 20 squared minus 12 squared? Before it's square rooted. It's 256. Thank you, you one person. And then you square root. And what's the square root of 256? 16. So the top of the triangle is worth 16 units. Now, can I sit here now and say this is 8? Why?
Because it's the midpoint.
So what told you it was the midpoint? The given says it's the midpoint?
No.
Does anything anywhere tell you D is the midpoint of CE? No. So you cannot make that assumption. You cannot make that assumption. Instead, what could we do to try to find the individual parts of that top side? What other right triangles do you see that give you two other sides? C. Well, CBD, we're still missing two of the sides, right? Y and this top. You don't know that these are the same either. You don't know that. A, D, E, well, that's not a right triangle. So I can't use Pythagorean theorem on it. A, D, C. Look at this skinny triangle that Colin is trying to pay attention to right now.
That's what I thought.
So which triangle, Josh? Good, yes. This long, skinny one. You got it right here. So we can find this top length CD by, again, using Pythagorean theorem. So we have 12 squared again, plus the CD length squared is equal to 4 square root 13 squared. Now, 12 squared is 144. Before we use our calculators, what is 4 square root 13 squared? Shh. No. What is 4 squared? Stop having a conversation when I'm trying to teach. Both of you, I don't care. 16, 4 squared is 16. And what's square root of 13 squared?
14.
Yeah, right? A square root times itself is just the number inside. So what is 16 times 13 minus 144?
Not you.
Thank you.
Wait, minus 144?
Yes, minus.
64.
Thank you. Yes, good job. And what's the square root of 64?
8.
8. So guess what?
That's the answer.
You could have assumed correctly that it was the midpoint. However, on your test, if you don't show yourself solving this, and you just assume it's the midpoint, it is going to be minus 4 points.
But what if you're looking against you?
Minus 4 points. You cannot assume things are congruent in math. You have to know, you have to solve. So now, knowing that this is 8, 16 minus 8 is, so x is also 8, making D the midpoint, and we already knew B was the midpoint, so this y line, what did we learn last unit this y line is called? Midpoint to midpoint? Blank segment?
I can tell you.
What?
Is it the law?
No. Blank segment. From midpoint to midpoint. It's the, this is the mid segment. And the mid segment is always what of the base? Half. So if this is 20, what's y? So what is DE plus BD? 18. Did you have to memorize that mid-segment knowledge? Or what else could you have done? You could have done Pythagorean theorem again. But it is easier just to remember, okay, if that's the mid-segment, it's half the base. Boom. Are there any questions on this problem? Yes. Because the problem asks, what is DE plus BD? So I just added DE plus BD, 8 plus 10. Well, B is the midpoint, D is the midpoint. Therefore, this line is the mid-segment, which is always half of the base. So if this is 20, this will always be 10. Any other questions?